Test, test. Test, test, test. Can anybody hear me? Is my voice coming through? There's a lag and a delay. So, no sound, howdy. Still silent. All right, I'll keep talking. Good. All right. Cool. So there's a bit of a delay on my side. I'm going to have to just mute it, and I'm behind you guys a little bit, so I'm still getting used to this. This is like my third or fourth one. I'm obviously not that good, but I'll get better. And then what I'd like to do is I'm going to log into Twitter here in a second. I don't know how I'm going to do that, actually. I don't know how I can log into Twitter. I wonder if I can pause the live stream and then catch it back up. Is that possible? Does anybody ever do that? I'd like to log into Twitter and then do some Twitter commenting while we're together, if that's possible. And Israel, aka Kushner Genie Oil. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's been coming out lately about Trump's financial backing, Sheldon Adelson, his ties. They moved the entire timetable for moving the embassy. And they said it was about being bugged on the QAnon board. They said, hey, you know, these embassies were bugged and there was nowhere we could go and they could hear everything. And that's a good excuse. I buy that, you know. Not saying that's not true, but I'm also saying that all the mainstream reports line up with a timetable of Sheldon Adelson moving everything really quickly because that's what he wants to do. The sound is gone again. Dang it. Is the sound gone again? Hello, test, test, test. Test. Hello? Test. No, dang it. Wait, you can? You can? Okay. Someone was messing with me then. All right. Okay. So with that, I'm just going to move forward. I've been going here to get a lot of information lately. These people are legit. They're a little creative, you know, to say the least. They're a little bit hardcore over here, but the daily board's pretty good. It's easier to follow. This is vote.co, voat.co. This is the Mueller report. So I'm going to go over this for a few minutes. I'm going to just read through it. I said I would do this on a live stream, so we'll go through this together. I'll check back and forth on comments on the channel, so I'm off it right now, but I'll look back over there in a second. Honk honk to everybody. Hope you're having fun today. So the special counsel's investigation. This is page 4. I already covered all this in the first video. So if you didn't read that, if you didn't watch that, you can skip over to my main channel. This harm to ongoing matter, this redaction shows up a lot, and it ties in a lot with like ongoing investigations. So this leans in perfectly to the Julian Assange arrest, him not being in that embassy anymore. People said that if you look for this on the WikiLeaks search, so if you go look at harm to ongoing matter or HOM on the WikiLeaks search on their website, there's a lot of good stuff that comes up. I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked. I just thought I'd pass it on. I wrote down, we're going to read the first page, and then we're going to go check out page 33 and page 50. I wrote that down as good places to go look. Hope this isn't boring. You know, this is what I would have been spending my time on anyway, so I figured I'll just, you know, record the whole thing, and then I'll make a summary video later. So it says, Introduction to Volume 1. This report is submitted to Attorney General for pursuant to this thing, which states that at the conclusion of the special counsel's work, he shall provide the Attorney General a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached. The Russia government interfered in the 2016 presidential election in sweeping and systematic fashion. Evidence of Russian government operations began to surface mid-2016. In June, the Democratic National Committee and its cyber response team publicly announced that Russian hackers had compromised its computer network. Releases of hacked materials, hacks that public reporting soon attributed to the Russian government began that same month. Additional releases followed in July through the organization WikiLeaks, with further releases in October and November. In late July 2016, soon after WikiLeaks' first release of stolen documents, a foreign government contacted the FBI about a May 2016 encounter with Trump campaign foreign policy advisor George Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos had suggested to a representative of that foreign government that the Trump campaign had received indications from the Russian government that it could assist the campaign through the anonymous release of information damaging to Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. That information prompted the FBI on July 31st, 2016, to open an investigation into whether individuals associated with the Trump campaign were coordinated with the Russian government in its interference activities. That fall, 2 federal agencies jointly announced that the Russian government directed recent compromises of emails from U.S. persons, John Podesta, and institutions, the DNC, including U.S. political organizations. And these thefts and disclosures are intended to interfere with the U.S. election process. After the election in late July 2016, the U.S. imposed sanctions on Russia for having interfered in the election. By early 2017, several congressional committees were examining Russians' interference in the election. All right, so at this time, remember they kicked a bunch of Russian diplomats out really quick, too. There's like 24 of them. Within like 2 or 3 days, they were packaged and ejected. So it looks like they're saying that there was interference and that it happened through this email, and it was designed to target the DNC. Within the executive branch, these investigatory efforts ultimately led to the May 2017 appointment of Special Counsel Robert S. Mueller III. The order appointing the special counsel authorized him to investigate the Russian government's efforts to interfere in the 2016 presidential election, including any links or coordination between the Russian government and the individuals associated with the Trump campaign. So detailed in this report, the special counsel's investigation established that Russia interfered in the 2016 presidential election principally through 2 operations. First, a Russian entity carried out a social media campaign that favored presidential candidate Donald J. Trump and disparaged presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. And the second operation was that a Russian intelligence service conducted computer intrusion operations against entities, employees, and volunteers working in the Clinton campaign, and then released stolen documents. The investigation also identified numerous links between the Russian government and the Trump campaign. Although the investigation established that the Russian government perceived it would benefit from a Trump presidency and work to secure that outcome, and that the campaign expected it would benefit electorally from information stolen and released through Russian efforts, the investigation did not establish that members of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in its election interference activities. So there's 3 dots here. I'm going to just kind of fill in the blanks. This looks pretty bad. This reminds me of when Stormy Daniels came forward with Avenatti as her lawyer. That it looked terrible, and you thought. I said the only way that this could hurt Trump is if he violated campaign finance laws. And they tried to make the case that he did, but they got hung up on his lawyer, Cohen, right? Member of the Jewish priestly class. Because he acted as his lawyer. So kind of the buck stops there. If he did it, that's his responsibility is to know what the law is. And if he broke it, that's him, not his client. So now all kinds of stuff has come out with Avenatti. Stormy Daniels has kind of jumped ship. She had the Nexium brand on her, and now we got the Nexium stuff going through the courts, and that ties back to Nancy Salzman, all sorts of people. And now Kristen Hillebrandt, who's like a Democratic senator, I'm getting way off topic here, but Kristen Hillebrandt's daughter might be Allison Mack. So a lot of people don't know that Kristen Hillebrandt in 1982 gave up a daughter in Germany after she was born. And the Smallville actress, Nexium person, she was born in 1982. So I'm getting way off topic here, but there's a lot. This stuff looks bad. They just said, they admit in this report that the Russians did what they said that the mainstream media has been saying that the Russians did. And that Trump did what the mainstream media said that Trump did. But that there wasn't a handshake agreement. There was no... The Trump campaign wasn't directly working with the Russians. It was independent. And that's what they found. That's what it looks like to me, at least from this one-page summary so far. It goes on to say, below we describe the evidentiary considerations underpinning statements about the results of our investigation and the special counsel's charging decisions. Then we provide an overview of the 2 volumes of our report. The report describes actions and events by the special counsel's office found to be supported by evidence collected in our investigation. In some instances, the report points out the absence of evidence or conflicts in the evidence without a particular fact or event. In other instances, when substantial, credible evidence enabled the office to reach a conclusion with confidence. So it just says that, some of this stuff is going to be inconclusive, and some of it's going to be some guesswork. They just find that, it's not in here. I really feel like this is going to be boring. It's going to take me a long time to get through this. So I'm going to skim a little bit. It says the report on our investigation consists of 2 volumes. Okay, so I'm answering my own question here. Volume 1 describes the factual results of the special counsel's investigation of Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election and its interactions with the Trump campaign. Section 1 describes some of the scope. Sections 2 and 3 describe the principal ways Russia interfered. Section 4 describes the links between the Russian government and individuals in the Trump campaign. Section 5 sets forth the special counsel's charging decisions. So in Section 5, they're going to say, here's what Mueller said he wanted to have happen in Section 5 here. Section 4 is the relationships between Trump and the Russian. And a lot of people in the QAnon community say that the people that worked on behalf of Trump with the Russians were either set up or they were a plant. Manafort was supposedly a plant. They just allowed him to be. And this makes sense if you understand history, especially like the early 1980s. So the first Bush, who was a president, he was originally like the head of the CIA. And he was supposed to be president when Reagan was elected. But Reagan beat him. And then they said, Reagan, you have to make this guy your vice president. And then Reagan was dumb enough to do it. You know? And I say he was dumb enough to do it because the first thing that happened is he gets a gut shot twice, you know? Pop, pop. They almost try to kill him. And it's because they're going to try to assassinate the president. Vice President Bush takes presidency. And then, you know, the rest is history. So there was a slight hiccup along the way, but eventually Reagan was deep state as they come. He did everything they wanted him to do. He may have started off good, but in the end, he didn't accomplish anything they didn't want to do. I mean, we gave like 3 million Mexican national citizenship, and we were supposed to be done with it. That was just volume 1 of immigration. So people in QAnon say that Paul Manafort was a plant, and that's why he's in prison. And Paul Manafort worked with Tony Podesta. They worked at the same place. That's that, two sides wearing two different jerseys but playing for the same team kind of talk. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But that'll be where this is, Section 4. Section 2 and 3 describe the principal ways Russia interfered. And this is where the Twitter stuff is, I think. So I'm going to go over here real quick, Section 2 and Section 3. And Section 1 is the scope. So I don't really care about the scope. I don't, mainstream media's kind of beat that horse to death over the last year and a half. They were wrong. All of them were wrong, embarrassingly wrong. Blinded by politics, and that's what got everybody in trouble. They're not allowed to tell the truth. You understand that? There's a lot of journalists that are actually pretty honest people, but if they want to tell the truth, where are they going to tell it? You can't even tell the truth on YouTube anymore. So, a rich billionaire, Israel first Jew is not going to pay you to tell the truth. He's going to pay you to tell the world what he wants, 2, Russian active measures social media campaign. This is going to be fun. So let's go to 14. These are contacts. Here's some redactions. Yeah, WikiLeaks, I told you. Anything redacted, my guess is going to be WikiLeaks. And then in order to unredact this, they're going to have a closed hearing, and then they'll decide whether or not to have a public hearing. And time frame is going to be months on that. We're looking at June probably, if not later, if it ever happens. I don't like making predictions. So beginning in June 2016, here's stuff about that. They bring up John Podesta down here, I think. Podesta's stolen emails. There they are. Wow, look at this. WikiLeaks began releasing Podesta's stolen emails less than an hour after U.S. media outlets released video considered damaging to candidate Trump. I wonder if that was the grab 'em by the lady parts bit. How am I doing? I'm about to go check in here in a second. If you want me to keep going, if you want me to look at something in this, post a page number and what you want me to check out. So I wanted to go to the social media campaign because I think that's the best, that's the coolest part. This is page 9, page 14. Okay, so here's the active measures. This is actually on page 22, okay? 22 if you're looking at the PDF. There's an 8-page difference because of the table of content. Russian active measures. All right, so I was asking what's IRA in that first video I did on my other channel, the introduction. The IRA is the Internet Research Agency, LLC. The first form of Russian election interference came principally from them. It was funded by this guy that I'm not going to try to pronounce, and companies that he controlled. They conducted social media operations targeted at large U.S. audiences with the goal of sowing discord in the U.S. political system. They were shit posters, essentially. These operations constituted active measures, a term that typically refers to operations conducted by Russian security services aimed at influencing the course of international affairs. And the U.S. government does that all the time. That's what caused the Arab Spring. We do the same stuff, okay? It's the internet. It's just like publishing a book somewhere in a library. There's nothing wrong with it, If it's true, it's true. So the Internet Research Association and its employees began operations targeting the United States as early as 2014, using fictitious U.S. personas on social media. Come on. IRA employees operated social media accounts and group pages, that's Facebook, designed to attract U.S. audiences. These groups and accounts, which addressed divisive U.S. political and social issues, wedge issues, falsely claimed to be controlled by U.S. activists. Over time, these social media accounts became a means to reach large audiences. IRA employees traveled to the United States in mid-2014 on an intelligence-gathering mission to obtain information and photographs for use in their social media posts. Man, these guys went all in. Employees posted derogatory information about a number of candidates in the 2016 election. By early mid-2016, IRA operations included supporting the Trump campaign and disparaging candidate Hillary Clinton. The IRA made various expenditures to carry out those activities, including buying political advertisements on social media in the names of U.S. persons and entities. Some employees, posing as U.S. persons and without revealing the Russian association, communicated electronically with individuals associated with the Trump campaign and with other political activists to seek to coordinate political activities, including the staging of political rallies. The investigation did not identify evidence that any U.S. persons knowingly or intentionally coordinated with the Russian interference operation. So it looks like this was Russia on behalf of Russia. They liked Trump policies more than Hillary Clinton. And, people know that Joe Biden's son signed a $1 billion agreement with the Ukrainian government over gas rights and refining practices, oil and stuff. So Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton and the group of Democrats were embedded in dirty politics in Ukraine, and they were also instigating. It looked like they were trying to gear up with open war with Russia. We did like a missile shield and stuff while Obama was in office, while Hillary was Secretary of State. But the Russians also donated heavily to the Clintons through the Clinton Foundation. Right? Didn't that happen? So who knows? I mean, it makes sense that everybody plays both sides now. I used to think it was just one group, and obviously that's not true. Game theory has a lot of different players involved. It's not just two sides. It's like, 50 different factions of people competing inside of different countries, and then countries competing with countries. So it gets messy. These are redacted, so I imagine we could find this right here because it says Serial 44. Here's this. I mean, we could dig up what this is. Internet Research Agency indictment. So this is interesting. This means that there is a sealed indictment for the Internet Research Agency. QAnon people will be happy to see that. We've been kind of tracking these for a while. All right. It goes on to say that Instagram accounts, Instagram now, had hundreds of thousands of U.S. participants. IRA-controlled Twitter accounts separately had tens of thousands of followers, including multiple U.S. political figures who retweeted IRA-created content. In November of 2017, a Facebook representative testified that Facebook had identified 470 IRA-controlled Facebook accounts that collectively made 80,000 posts between January 15 and August 17. Facebook estimated the IRA reached as many as 126 million persons through its Facebook accounts. In January 2018, Twitter announced it had identified 3,800 IRA-controlled Twitter accounts and notified approximately 1.4 million people Twitter believed may have been in contact with those accounts. So they had a huge impact. They had a huge impact on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we would read about who did it, but you can't. It's been redacted. And it's been redacted in a couple different spots. So, like, this is 8 and 10. These sources are 8 and 10. So let's go look at 8. It's, again, that first redacted. that first redacted thing that we saw. So someone could go look this up. SM-223064, comma, serial 92. If you want to look that up on Google, maybe you'll find something. But that is the first redaction, and then it's qualified again here. It's interesting to me because this says how it started. This first paragraph is how it started, and then it says the organization quickly grew, and then it's going to cover who else they ensnared, I imagine. The growth of the organization also led to a more detailed organization structure. Now, if you've been on the Q boards, they've had organizational structures. They've posted about MOS, which some people believe stands for Mossad, the Israeli Secret Service, which some people have pointed out has the same initials as ISIS. But the Islamic State, what does the other IS stand for? I don't know. No one answers these questions very well, and when you try to look for a good answer, you get a deflection, or someone else tells you to go look at another squirrel, or Notre Dame burns down, Notre Dame burns down, and then who knows what's happening, The month before Notre Dame burns down, there's a New Zealand massacre, right? And everybody gets banned from the internet. Now people can't own guns. These are weird timing events. People are now wondering, why the big deal about everybody covering this document? Honestly, this is something that I've done this many times. For me, in my channel, it makes sense, but for the mainstream media, MSNBC or CNN doing live stream analysis on YouTube doesn't make any sense to me. They already have a news channel. They can easily go over this stuff unless they don't really want you to look. So what I've taken out of this so far, this does not exonerate Trump, but it doesn't provide any evidence at all that he did anything wrong. And we spent almost 2 years doing this. Year and a half. 2 years, almost 2 years. And Julian Assange has just been pulled out of the embassy and made his first public appearance since this whole thing started. I mean, literally, Julian Assange did not make an appearance between the time this thing started and the day or two before it stops. The week it starts, Julian Assange goes missing, doesn't make an appearance for a year and a half or 2 years, and they keep saying he's in the embassy, no one can talk to him, his own lawyers can't talk to him. He has a window, okay, but he can't go to the window and let people take his picture, and he's cut off from the internet, so that's why you can't talk to him. Julian Assange was never in the embassy the whole time. It looks like they took him out, and then they put him back in there, and then publicly drug him out. And it happened concisely with the Mueller investigation. That's the timeline. So it says 2 individuals headed to the IRA's management, its director, this guy named Mikhail Bystrov, and its executive director, another Mikhail. More stuff about redactions. Here's some stuff about funding and oversight. More redactions. Numerous media sources have reported on Prigozhin's ties to Putin, and the two have appeared together in public photographs. He was sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department in December 2016. So this guy, so this was one of the guys, I'm guessing, that got kicked out of the country. And he has ties to Putin, and it happened right before Trump took office. Everything else is redacted. Ties to Putin, Russian oligarchs. Holy crap, that's a lot of redaction right there. Just block the Look at the footnote, 28. Hang on. So on this entire page, there's nothing to read. Fully redacted page. And it says down here, this is the only thing. The term troll refers to internet users in this context paid operatives who post inflammatory or otherwise disruptive content on social media or other websites. So they're using it, paid trolls. They were paid to troll. Shit posters, that's what they did. It's funny that page 18 only has one thing on it. Everything else is redacted. About trolling. Here's more stuff about the IRA employees. The beginnings of it. I imagine all this stuff is going to be redacted because I think the first part was probably like a summary, and then this part was probably the detailed version. Starting in 2014, U.S. operations included social media specialists focusing on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I want to know who these people are. They kept saying Russian bots, like for 2 years it's been Russian bots. Mark Dice is a Russian bot. Candace Owens is a Russian bot. Anybody who doesn't line up is a Russian bot. So I would like to see a list of these actual accounts. You think I'm on there? I'm just kidding. I started my channel later. December 2017 is when I made my first post. And that was about the Mueller investigation being fake, false, phony, hoaxed, which turns out it looks like that was the case. More redactions. I'm going to glaze over this stuff. I'm more interested in how they did it. So, yeah, more redactions. Many IRA operations use Facebook accounts created and operated by its specialist. Facebook groups active during the 2016 covered a range of political issues that included purported conservative groups with names such as, yes, here we go, Being Patriotic, Stop All Immigrants, Secured Borders, Tea Party News, purported black social justice groups as Black Matters, Blacktivists, Don't Shoot Us, LGBTQ groups, LGBT United, and religious groups, United Muslims of America. Oh my gosh. This is fantastic. I mean, some of what I've done in the past is, I don't even really consider it trolling because I'm just reading whatever is on a webpage, that's it. But, posing as a Muslim or a gay Muslim and then starting an entire, social media following based around being a gay Muslim, that's some high-level trolling right there. Throughout 2016, IRA accounts published an increasing number of materials supporting the Trump campaign and opposing the Clinton campaign. For example, May 31st, 2016, the operational account Matt Scriber began to privately message dozens of pro-Trump Facebook groups asking them to help plan a, quote, pro-Trump rally near Trump Tower. To reach larger audiences, they bought Facebook advertisements. They spent $100,000 on Facebook. Which part of me thinks, so what? Is there a law against that? If corporations... Citizens United says that U.S. corporations, can spend whatever they want, however much they want, then all these people would have to do is just be like AIPAC. The American Israeli Political Action Committee, just like them, okay? They lobby on behalf of Israel. And you can't win the presidency without their backing. That's why Trump had to grovel in front of them. Hillary had to grovel. Every president has had to beg AIPAC to let them be president. So what's the difference? I don't know. You tell me. $100,000 though. That's a pretty good chunk of change for Facebook ads. Imagine what you could accomplish with $100,000 on Facebook. I could start any company on the planet with $100,000 on Facebook. I could do anything. The IRA purchased an advertisement depicting candidate Clinton and a caption that read in part, quote, "If one day God lets this liar enter the White House as a president, that day would be a real national tragedy." They purchased advertisements for its account Black Matters, calling for a flash mob of U.S. persons to take a photo with Hillary Clinton for Prison 2016. So they played both sides. It's pretty common. Reached tens of millions of U.S. persons. Individual social media accounts attracted hundreds of thousands of followers. At the time they were deactivated by Facebook, they had an account called United Muslims of America that had 300,000 followers. The Don't Shoot Us Facebook group had 250,000 followers. The Being Patriotic Facebook group had 200,000 followers. Secured Border Facebook group had 130,000 followers. Like, these are giant accounts. These are not small mom and pop potato posters. Like, these are big. These things could generate traffic. Especially because they're so niche. That's the thing to look out for. It's not like it's a watered down, little bit of everything kind of group. These are very focused groups. With focused groups, you can really animate people. It's easy, it's simple. And it doesn't always have to be right. It just has to be believable. That's kind of the point with like propaganda. A heck of a lot of emotion with a dash of truth. And you got yourself a weaponized piece of information. This stuff's all redacted, but it talks about Twitter accounts similar to the operation of its Facebook accounts. Okay, here we go. All right, write these down. Let's go look at them. I wonder, I bet these are probably already taken down. They had to have been. Here's one. Here's an account at 10_GOP. At 10_GOP. At Jen Abrams, JENN_ABRAMS. Pamela Moore, Pamela_Moore 13. She had 70,000 followers. At March for Trump with underscores. That was one of them. Here's some stuff. I wonder if they're suing Twitter. I wonder if this is part of... I wonder if there is an indictment here. And it's under the Twitter section. So here's some specific tweet. And we could go to the Wayback When machine. I imagine some of this stuff has been cataloged. It says, for example, one IRA account tweeted, quote, "To those people who hate the Confederate flag, did you know that the flag and the war wasn't about slavery? It was all about the money." That tweet received over 40,000 responses. So the way this stuff works, I need to explain this. If you're interested, I'm going to take a second and just drop this in there. The way this thing works is you have to build a network. So I've actually done a lot of... I've spent a lot of time on the internet. I got a good idea of how it works. I've also dug into people, how these things link together, and really you need a lot of different accounts to make something like this work. It's not just about the one that this Jen Abrams account. This Jen Abrams account likely had a feeder group, and she was just like the top of the pyramid. So that account, which probably wasn't even a woman, it was just an account that posted top tier stuff. That would get shared out on tier 2 accounts, and then those would get shared out on tier 3 accounts. And each tier, the accounts get smaller and smaller. But the amount of reach they have is gigantic. And it has to happen as a network. So you build this network up, and you create share paths. Once something gets dropped into the share path, it just runs its course. So sometimes you can get a grassroots share package and it just works. Somebody finds it. They're a real person, But most of the time, content that people are looking for gets picked up and it gets pressed and juiced through a farm of accounts. And these accounts pass things back and forth. Some of it is fake, but a lot of it is designed to generate real traffic. So it's possible that me as a real person could go over to Twitter and I find a trending post that's big. It hit one of the searches. It showed up on Twitter's top post for that search tag. And then I go, oh, that's good. That's the content I'm looking for. And then I share it on my account. Well, I'm a real person, but I kind of just embedded myself in what they were doing, and that's what they're out to accomplish. That's how this all works. So it's a little bit of fakeness to get yourself up on the center stage, but once you get your content on the center stage, it just takes off. That's exactly what people are looking for, So it's all about reaching your audience, hitting the right people. And one thing that I've had to learn from being on YouTube is that outrage is not something that I am going for. I don't care. I'm not looking to outrage people, but people can get easily triggered if you say something that conflicts with their worldview. So if you pick one side or the other of any debate and you pick very, very centralized core truths, it will inflame people. They'll just get pissed off, and they'll comment and they'll write and they'll say things. And then other people say things back to that, and that's exactly how trolling works. And unfortunately, or fortunately, that's how the discord of the world is going to work from here on out. Because that's how humans work. And the mainstream media doesn't own it all anymore. So as you can see on this page, it talks about U.S. persons, including former ambassadors, Roger Stone, Sean Hannity, and Mike Flynn Jr., retweeting or responding to tweets posted to these IRA-controlled accounts. Multiple individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign also promoted those tweets. And I didn't even read that before I just told you what I said. There's no way to know who posts what on the internet. It's anonymous. And that's the way it should be. If you want to be yourself and you want to get famous, do that. Okay? But most people most people who do this can see the big picture. They're not really looking to make a couple bucks or push a product, or sell you some new CBD oil. They're trying to move the goalposts in political discourse in the world between countries. So if that doesn't tell you how powerful the stuff that we're doing is, I don't know what else to say. A Twitter post can change the world. That's where we've gotten to in the world. Like that's how important this stuff is. That's why people freak out, and that's why governments want to shut the internet down, because one person talking can fuel this entire system. You just drop one thing in, it takes off. People like Sean Hannity retweet your post. He likes what you say. It doesn't matter if you're a Russian or not. He doesn't care. So they bring up Roger J. Stone Jr. Here's a tweet. There's some specific stuff in here. This is page 28, or page 36 if you're looking at the PDF. So it says Twitter announced that it had notified approximately 1.4 million people who Twitter believed may have been in contact with an IRA-controlled account. 1.4 million people interacted with these accounts. That's just, and these are individual humans. 1.4 million human. Page 5, this is chapter 5.5, whatever. U.S. operations involving political rallies. I'm not really that interested in this, so I'm going to glaze over this. Full page of redactions. Wow. No footnotes or anything. Remember in that one above, they left the term troll on there. This one didn't have anything, though. They organized political they did this. That's insane. This is insane. If the Russians could do this to us, I'm wondering what we do to the Russians. Or I'd like to see a report like this into the Arab Spring. I don't think we ever got one of those. I would be really interested to see how that all worked. Because if it's this easy, someone out there listening should get in touch with me and offer me some cash. A lot of cash to do something interesting and important. And if your morals line up with my morals, maybe we can work together. In some other country. Let's go do this in another country. If it's this easy to do it here, Think about what we could do in like Nicaragua or Honduras. If you don't know this, people from Nicaragua and Honduras are saying on camera now that the TV and mainstream outlets down there are telling them to go to the United States and that those governments will assist them once they get here. Power of modern media, man. Here's an entire page talking about Black Matters US. The persona Black Fist hired a self-defense instructor in New York to offer classes sponsored by Black Fist. The IRA also recruited moderators of conservative social media groups to promote IRA-generated content, as well as recruited individuals to perform political acts, such as walking around New York City dressed up as Santa Claus with a Trump mask. This is insane. You know, I had no idea that it was this prevalent. You just think that maybe they run like a propaganda outlet abroad, or they work with CNN, you know, push a news story. They were doing guerrilla marketing. They bring up Kellyanne Conway, Brad Parscale. Oh, crap. Where are these at? 90. It's on this page right here. Oh, crap. Look at this. So somewhere in this redacted list, in that chunk right there, page 41 in the PDF, is this, I think. Wait, 96. Here's the redaction for 96. I got that wrong. So posts from the IRA-controlled Twitter account at 10_GOP were cited or retweeted by multiple Trump campaign officials and surrogates, including Donald J. Trump Jr., 96. So this is what's in there. See this. At Donald J. Trump Jr., 10/26/16 tweet. Retweet at 10GOP. Breaking. Thousands of names changed on voter rolls in Indiana. Police investigating. Voter fraud drain the swamp. So Trump Jr. retweeted at 10_GOP. Is this a real account? Has someone figured that out yet? I'm gonna switch over real quick. Hey, what's up? This is my #1 live stream ever. Thank you everybody for being here. Awesome. Yeah, all the redactions. Did anybody find this out yet? All right, let me go look. Let me go look real quick. This is Twitter 10_GOP. Is it still online? Account has been suspended. Okay, so if somebody wanted to do me a favor, you could go to this day, 10/26/16, in the archives for twitter.com/Donald J. Trump Jr. and see if you could find this. All right. Where is this from? These are the notices. 97. What's on 97? These are all these tweets. Okay. So this is crazy. So what they're saying basically is that there was a group of people in Russia who came over here, spent $100,000 just on Facebook. Who knows whatever else they spent on these other platforms. They spent all this money. They did guerrilla marketing on behalf of Trump. And basically what they did was they created content. That's all they did. They created content and they put it on the internet. And the content got so popular that it made its way to people like Mike Flynn, Brad Parscale, Kellyanne Conway, and it got retweeted. So it got picked up So here is a screenshot of Trump's Facebook account from Matt Skiber, Skiber. His name came up earlier. I mentioned him. So this is Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump posting what I'm guessing is a post that probably originated, or content that originated with this account or these accounts. But like, how would you know? How would you ever know? I don't know. I can tell you this. I've been fooled like 2 or 3 times on Twitter. I don't even bother with Twitter anymore. I can't talk to people over there because I don't know who they are. They could be anybody. And the worst thing that I want to have is be misled, and it's easy if you start talking to people and you give them an in and you build up trust. So, got to be careful. It's the internet, man, Sorry, I'm taking a snack right now. Okay, so it talks about Trump campaign officials and connection to rallies. This isn't really that interesting to me, but the hacking and dumping operations are. So we'll segue right into this. This is section 3, Russian hacking and dumping operations. So what they mean by dumping is once you find all this content, emails, leaked documents, you got to put them somewhere. And you can't just go send an email. You can't log into Gmail, what I'm saying, from your phone and just send a random person. You have to find a distribution network. So that's where WikiLeaks comes in. So it says, beginning in March 2016, units of the Russian Federation's main intelligence directorate of the General Staff, the GRU. So if you hear the GRU from now on, that means Russian intelligence. These people hack the computers and email accounts of organizations, employees, and volunteers supporting the Clinton campaign, including the email account of campaign chairman John Podesta. Starting in April 2016, the GRU hacked into the computer network of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC, and the Democratic National Committee, the DNC. The GRU targeted hundreds of email accounts used by the Clinton campaign, employees, advisors, and volunteers. In total, the Russians stole hundreds of thousands of documents from the compromised email accounts and networks. The Russians later released stolen Clinton campaign and DNC documents through online personas, DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0, and later through the organization WikiLeaks. Holy crap. The release of the documents was designed and timed to interfere with the 2016 U.S. presidential election and undermine the Clinton campaign. Yeah, no crap. Okay, so this is humongous. This is gigantic. I think this might undermine some of the past conversations that the mainstream media has kind of driven. Possibly. Because it says, remember, Guccifer, he was the one, remember the Roger Stone stuff? We'll get to that, I'm sure. I'm sure it's in here. All right, so it says, the Trump campaign showed interest in the WikiLeaks release, and in the summer and fall of 2016, I'm guessing says something about having Roger Stone reach out to Julian Assange via WikiLeaks and see if he could get his hands on any of that knowledge before they made the drop. I'm guessing that's what this redacted section says. But that's not what it says. I don't know. It just says that it's an ongoing investigation. WikiLeaks' first Clinton-related release, blah. The Trump campaign stayed in contact, blah, about their activities from WikiLeaks. The investigation was unable to resolve, blah, 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 WikiLeaks' release of the stolen Podesta emails on October 7, 2016. The same day, a video from years earlier was published of Trump using graphic language about women. Ha! So that's what I said. So I think that this is this is the setup. That's the setup. Everything redacted in here is about individuals involved with the social media account or WikiLeaks and Podesta emails and Pizzagate. So the Russia intelligence hacking directed at the Clinton campaign. So here we go. These are the details. Two military units carried out the computer intrusions into Clinton campaign DNC and DCCC. Military units 26165 and 74455. Military unit 26165 is a Russian intelligence cyber unit dedicated to targeting military, political, governmental, and non-governmental organizations outside of Russia, including the United States. So it's like the CIA, NSA. The unit was subdivided into departments with different specialties. One department, for example, developed specialized malware, while another department conducted large-scale spear phishing campaigns. So this redaction says investigative technique, and I'm guessing that this reveals how they do their job. So this is going to be like Special Investigator NSA Unit Alpha Bravo Echo found a Bitcoin mining operation to secure Bitcoins used to purchase computer infrastructure used in hacking operations. So they did a rinse and clean using Bitcoin to buy a bunch of digital infrastructure so they couldn't trace it. The other military unit has multiple departments that engage in cyber operations. They assisted in the release of the documents stolen by the first unit, the promotion of those releases, and the publication of anti-Clinton content on social media accounts operated by the Russians. Officers from this second unit also, separately, hacked computers belonging to state boards of elections, secretaries of state, and U.S. companies that supplied software and other technology. Crazy. These are voting machines. Think about that. So we have a public document published on NPR that we've been waiting for 2 years to find. And it says that foreign companies literally are hacking the companies that make the software that you use to vote, as well as the machines that you use to vote. So you tell me how that's safe. I mean, they were able to get John Podesta's email off of Gmail. I mean, it forced Gmail to put the third thing of encryption on there, where you have to like verify your IP address or your device. Crazy. So the first unit used something to learn about this investigative technique. Different Democratic websites, including Democrats.org, HillaryClinton.com, DNC.org, and DCCC.org. Here's more stuff about investigative technique being redacted. This all began before the Russians had obtained any credentials or gained access to any of these networks, indicating that the latter DCCC and the DNC intrusions were not crimes of opportunity, but rather the result of targeting. The Russian officers also sent hundreds of spear phishing emails to work and personal email accounts of the Clinton campaign passwords and volunteers. One of the units appeared to have sent 90 spear phishing emails to email accounts at HillaryClinton.com. The spear phishing operation enabled it to gain access to numerous email accounts of Clinton campaign employees and volunteers, including campaign chairman John Podesta, junior volunteers assigned at the Clinton campaign's advance team, informal Clinton campaign advisors, and a DNC employee. GRU officers stole tens of thousands of emails from spear phishing victims, including various Clinton campaign-related communications. All right. This is big. This says that Russia hacked John Podesta's emails. That's what it says. It says Seth Rich didn't do it. So, what did Seth Rich do to catch 2 bullets in the back and not get robbed? Not lose his cell phone, cash in his hand, his gold necklace. What would get Seth Rich shot in the back? People say that Seth Rich was approached by FBI agents, and that gun was removed from the FBI agent's SUV a few blocks away during the same time frame. So there's stuff there. I've heard something else about Seth Rich. I thought it was about the Podesta emails. It could be about the documents. This doesn't make sense because Seth Rich died. He was gunned down. It wasn't an accident. It was a hit job. And it happened right around the time of these leaks. So I don't know what else to say about that. What did Seth Rich leak? What was he leaking? All right, I'm getting a little tired. I'm sure you're getting a little tired too. They talk about malware implantation. Lots of redactions about how they found this. So they don't want you to know how they found it. They just want you to know that they did. And it gets really lengthy. Here's stuff about the DC leaks. Use of WikiLeaks. Here we go. In order to expand its interference in the 2016 U.S. presidential election, the Russian intelligence units transferred many of the documents they stole from the DNC and the chairman of the Clinton campaign to WikiLeaks. Intelligence officers used both the DC leaks and Guccifer 2.0 personas to communicate with WikiLeaks through Twitter private messaging and through encrypted channels, including possibly through WikiLeaks' private communication system. All right, so the Russians hacked the DNC, stole all this stuff from John Podesta and Hillary Clinton and everybody else, assumed fake identities. Wow. Assumed fake identities and then used those fake identities to interact with WikiLeaks and then pass them the information. It says WikiLeaks, and particularly its founder Julian Assange, privately expressed opposition to candidate Clinton well before the release of the stolen documents. In November 2015, Assange wrote to other members and associates of WikiLeaks that we believe it would be much better for the GOP to win. Dems plus media plus liberals would then form a bloc to rein in their worst qualities. With Hillary in charge, GOP will be pushing for her worst qualities. Dems plus media plus neoliberals will be mute. She's a bright, well-connected, sadistic sociopath. It's pretty good, pretty fair assessment. So Julian Assange says it'd be better to support the GOP and for Donald Trump to win because all this weird transgenderism, gay marriage, sex change operations for 4-year-olds, and drag queen story hour at your local library would probably go away because you can only do those things if you have control. The general public does not want any of that. We don't even want gay marriage, I think people are starting to kind of turn the tide back on that one. I don't want gay marriage, Civil union's cool, whatever. You want to have a thing, but it's not a marriage. It's not. Also, there's this Bible saying that says that you're supposed to witness the fruits, You judge a tree by its fruit, and that's how you can see if something's evil or not. Well, a gay marriage tree is like a barren tree. It doesn't flower fruit, have leaves. It doesn't do anything. It can't procreate itself. Maybe that's the point. I don't want to rant here, but for since the 1970s, they did a thing where they tried to scare everybody into thinking there's going to be some population collapse. Like we're a bunch of deer or something in the wild that can't invent new technology to support ourselves in larger numbers, like indoor plumbing and transportation and cars and stuff. So in the 60s and 70s, they started to scare people and say we're going to have a population collapse if we don't get control of this. Too many people. Well, the only people that they were talking to was white, So all the white countries said, okay, we're going to have less kids, procreate less. That makes sense. Let's just level off our population. Then the population levels off on the growth rate, and then the same people that told you that there's going to be a population collapse tell you now that you can't support yourself. And we have to import people that can replace you. And the only people that we can import have an IQ of close to mental retardation. And somehow they're going to have to take care of you in the hospital. Also, we're going to automate everything. So technically, we don't need those people in the first place. Just believe us, whatever we're telling you today. I hate it. You can't listen to them. You can't listen to what they're saying because they'll tell you to destroy yourself, and you'll do it because you're thinking that you're good. You go, oh, this is high and moral. This is the just thing for me to do. I don't need my left leg or my right eyeball. The world would be better without them. I'm a little bored on this stuff now. This goes on to talk about WikiLeaks and the DNC project, and this is probably the greatest part in here, but I'm a little burnt out at this point. I've been reading through this for a while. Here it says, on October 7th, WikiLeaks released the first emails stolen from Podesta email account. In total, WikiLeaks released 33 tranches of stolen emails during that month. The releases included private speeches given by the Clintons, internal communications between Podesta and other high-ranking members of Clinton campaign, and correspondence between the Clinton Foundation. WikiLeaks released over 50,000 documents stolen from Podesta's personal email account. The last in-time email released from Podesta's account was dated March 21st, 2016, 2 days after Podesta received a spear-phishing email sent by the Russian intelligence agency. Oh, here we go. Rest in peace, Seth Rich, wherever you are. WikiLeaks statement dissembling about the source of the stolen materials. As reports attributing the DNC-DCCC hacks to the Russian government emerged, WikiLeaks and Julian Assange made several public statements apparently designed to obscure the source of the materials that WikiLeaks was releasing. Oh my God, this is going to be bad. The file transfer evidence described above and other information uncovered during the investigation discredit WikiLeaks' claims about the source of the material posted. Beginning in the summer of 2016, Assange and WikiLeaks made a number of statements. Beginning in the summer of 2016, Assange and WikiLeaks made a number of statements about Seth Rich, a former DNC staff member who was killed in July 2016. The statements about Rich implied falsely that he had been the source of the stolen DNC documents. On August 9th, 2016, the WikiLeaks Twitter account posted and announced, WikiLeaks has decided to issue a $20,000 reward for information leading to the conviction for the murder of DNC staffer Seth Rich. Likewise, on August 25th, 2016, Assange was asked in an interview, quote, "Why are you so interested in Seth Rich's killer?" He responded, quote, "We're very interested in anything that might be a threat to alleged WikiLeaks sources. The interviewer responded to Assange's statement by commenting, "I know you don't want to reveal your source, but it certainly sounds like you're suggesting a man who leaked information to WikiLeaks was then murdered." He replied, "If there's someone who's potentially connected to our publication and that person has been murdered in suspicious circumstances, it doesn't necessarily mean that the two are connected, but it is a very serious matter. That type of allegation is very serious, as it's taken very serious by us." After the U.S. intelligence community publicly announced its assessment that Russia was behind the hacking operation, Assange continued to deny that the Clinton materials released by WikiLeaks had come from Russian hacking. According to the media reports, Assange told a U.S. congressman that the DNC hack was an inside job and purported to have physical proof that the Russians did not give materials to Assange. There you have it. So, if we are to trust Robert Mueller's investigation and William Barr's coverage, remember too, William Barr is an Iran-Contra conspirator. William Barr was involved in the Iran-Contra conspiracy. William Barr, our current Attorney General, was involved in Iran. Under Bush, the Big Daddy Bush, okay, the worst of the worst, Poppy Bush himself, world's biggest drug dealer. William Barr served under him. So I don't know what to think. This report says that Julian Assange and WikiLeaks got the information from Guccifer 2.0 and the @DCLeaks account, which were made by the Russian military, and the Russian military are the ones who hacked John Podesta. And that Seth Rich was killed under mysterious circumstances shortly after the leak. If Seth Rich was set up, why did Seth Rich die? If the DNC knew this, because then you get into like CrowdStrike and all that stuff. I'm missing something here. They hired Google and CrowdStrike to cover the tracks of this whole thing, to make it look like it didn't happen, right? So let's scroll back up here. I might have missed something. All right, there's a couple things here. I just want to point out that WikiLeaks has been compromised for a long time. It's already been proven in multiple places. You can't trust them. It's fully compromised. You can't put anything up. I think that's where we're going to find out right now. So it says the Guccifer 2.0 persona informed the DC Leaks that WikiLeaks was trying to contact DC Leaks and arrange for a way to speak through encrypted emails. Now remember, they said in here that the Russian government created both of these accounts, Guccifer 2.0 and DC Leaks. An analysis of the metadata collected from the WikiLeaks site revealed that the stolen Podesta emails show a creation date of September 19, 2016. Based on information about Assange's computer and its possible operating system, an analysis of the metadata collected from WikiLeaks site, WikiLeaks website. Metadata was collected from WikiLeaks website. It revealed that the stolen Podesta emails show a creation date of September 19th, 2016. So this is like a timestamp tag when they posted this document, I'm guessing. Based on information about Assange's computer and its possible operating system, which tells me they never got access to his stuff, this date may have been when the Russian intelligence group staged the stolen Podesta emails for transfer to WikiLeaks. So it's like a creation timestamp. If I make a copy of a file, it's created on that date. You know what I mean? And if you make a copy of a copy, it's created on that date. And if I upload that file to a website, they might post that created date as the upload timestamp. So they're saying that September 19th was the day that potentially they received this information. WikiLeaks site also released PDFs and other documents taken from Podesta that were attachments to emails in his account. These documents had a creation date of October 2nd, 2016, which appears to be the date the attachments were separately staged by WikiLeaks on its site. So that kind of what I was telling you about right there. Beginning on September 20th, so this is a day after that first creation date, WikiLeaks and DC Leaks resumed communications in a brief exchange. So it was after the handoff happened. So it looks like the first timestamp was the time that they handed it off, then they talked again. Then on September 22nd, 2 days later, a DC Leaks email account, dcleaksproject@gmail.com, sent an email to a WikiLeaks account with the subject submission and the message, "Hi from DC Leaks." The email contained a PGP, pretty good protocol, encrypted message with the file name wikimail.txt.gpg. Redaction. The email, however, bears a number of similarities to the July 14th, 2016 email, where the Russian officers used the Guccifer 2.0 persona to give WikiLeaks access to the archive of the DNC files. On the 22nd of September, the same day DC Leaks emailed WikiLeaks, they sent a single message to WikiLeaks with a string of characters, blah, 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 which was probably the decryption key. This right here. This is probably where the PGP characters are. This is to unlock the file, basically, uncrypt it. So they created the file, they posted it, they got in touch with WikiLeaks, and then they got on another account through a different site. So the first one was an email, and then they sent a Twitter message through the direct messages that said, "Here's the way to unlock the file." Pretty smart, really. I mean, can't do one without the other. The key's no good without the file's no good without the key, and unless you have the email account and the Twitter account, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get it. So they had to have both. So that's how you can use these platforms. You know, it's okay if Twitter finds one of them, they just can't find both of them. So here's some stuff worth mentioning in the footnotes. It says, at the time, certain Apple operating systems use a setting that left the downloaded file's creation date the same as the creation date shown on the host computer. This would explain why the creation date on WikiLeaks' version of the files was still September 19th. So if you go look at this thing, this SM2284941 serial 62, you're going to find information about how they found all this stuff. I brought that up 3 times now. So a couple weeks later, on October 7th, WikiLeaks released the first stolen emails from the Podesta email account. And they did like one batch a day, I guess, for like a month. Internal communications, we covered some of this stuff already. This is the Seth Rich murder and Julian Assange's comments on that. So Seth Rich was murdered on like the second week of June? He was murdered for on the second week of June. Now, here's a theory. So take this as you will. Either they thought Seth Rich was responsible for the leak and they murdered him, which at this point, from what I can tell in this document, that doesn't seem like the case. They would have known this already. They would have known that John Podesta got hit in a spearfishing accident. They would have known all this stuff, right? They knew within 2 days what happened. The last emails they got from John Podesta was 2 days after he got spearfished, which means that he would have known they had access to his email account and they would have locked it down. he would have also been able to track where the account was hijacked. So they would have rounded up the wagons, got together, talked about this, and said, hey, this just happened to John. Skippy, the guy from the Madeline McCann sketches, possibly, said that he got spearphished. So they would do an investigation. They would get Google on board, because you remember Eric Schmidt was involved in the campaign. They would fund Crowdflare or crowdsource, whatever, to do a huge sweep, figure all this stuff out, make backups to the entire network, and then crush this thing, right? So that would all happen really fast. Seth Rich doesn't get murdered until the second week of June. So what happened between Podesta getting hacked in April and Seth Rich getting murdered halfway through June? There's another theory going around that lines up more closely with campaign contributions between Bernie Sanders' campaign and the Clinton campaign. Sorry, I kind of tossed that off a little bit. My voice cracked. If you remember, Bernie Sanders' campaign got access to a voting database they were not supposed to have access to. And they saw information in a voting database that only the Clinton campaign was supposed to have access to during the primaries. So what someone has said was that they've admitted that they moved money that was allocated for Bernie into the Clinton campaign. So someone said that. Either way, it doesn't matter, because Seth Rich was a Bernie Sanders guy. He did not like the Clinton campaign, and he was involved in voting demographics. So if Seth Rich got into this account and found out that they were rigging the election against Bernie, and then he tried to do something about it, then that's easy. That's an easy way to catch two to the back, while you're walking home at 4 a.m. That's an easy way to do that. And that could be separate from the Podesta emails. And now that this document says that Julian Assange basically knows that the Russians are the one that gave him all this information, but he's brought Seth Rich up before in the public and made us all believe that Seth Rich, for some reason, was responsible for the leak for the last 2 years, then that means that he's either lying or he has a different motivation. And the motivation could have been tie these two things together and get people talking about both of them. That was a long speech I just gave, but I was not expecting to see this stuff in here. I was kind of expecting to see something a little bit different. This really confirms everything that the media, mainstream media, has been saying. I mean, the only thing it doesn't say is that there was a concerted effort for Trump to work with the Russians directly, which everything we've covered, that didn't happen. That's not in here. It says that the Russian intelligence stole 300 gigs of data from the DNC cloud-based account. They took it all, man. All of it. Here's some intrusions targeting the administration of U.S. elections. I may need to take a break here. Spear phishing emails were sent to public officials involved in election administration and personnel at companies involved in voting technology. And this is why Google now has that third trusted device kind of thing, third point of encryption, multi-point encryption. Trump campaign and the dissemination of hacked materials. The Trump campaign showed interest in WikiLeaks' release of hacked materials throughout the summer and fall of 2016. By late summer 2016, Rick Gates says that the Trump campaign was planning a press strategy, a communications campaign, and a messaging based on the possible release of the Clinton emails by WikiLeaks. And then there's more investigations about that. While Trump and Gates were driving to LaGuardia Airport, they had a conversation. Shortly after the call, candidate Trump told Gates that more releases of damaging information would be coming. I'm guessing that Trump was talking to Roger Stone on that telephone. And Roger Stone was talking to the Guccifer 2.0 account, which just happened to be run by Russian intelligence. Ha! Look at this stuff. Jerome Corsi, the liar himself, is in here. Section C. Harm to ongoing matters. They're still investigating. Remember, they tried to get Jerome Corsi to plead guilty to some stuff, and then he stood his ground, and they let him off the hook. And then the QAnon board bashed him a little bit. And I was thinking, man, this is making him look real good. He's getting all kinds of like playtime on TV. Now he's got like a $300 million lawsuit. Jerome Corsi is an author who holds a doctorate in political science. In 2016, Corsi also worked for the media outlet World Net Daily, and then talk about him a little bit. Footnote about Corsi and book writing. Corsi gained prominence for the leading proponent of allegations that Barack Obama was not born in the United States. They put that in a footnote and got it in this document. That's crazy. Corsi told The Office during the interviews that he, quote, must have previously discussed Assange with Malik. According to Malik, Corsi asked him to put Corsi in touch with Assange, whom Corsi wished to interview. Malik recalled that Corsi also suggested that individuals in the orbit of UK politician Nigel Farage might be able to contact Assange, and asked if that guy knew them. He told Corsi that he would think about the request, but didn't try, because Corsi's a loser. I have lots of questions now, and I don't really want to voice them out loud. But I have a lot of questions that I really want to ask somebody. Of course, who are you going to ask? I mean, look at these are like footnotes, entire pages of footnotes being redacted. Grand jury. Look at all that. Grand jury for all this redaction. It's all about Corsi too. More WikiLeaks release stuff, Jerome Corsi stuff, Infowars. I hope they bring up Infowars in here somewhere. Corsi and that stuff. Redactions, Putin, Trump. Here you go. WikiLeaks sent a Twitter direct message to Donald Trump Jr. A PAC-run anti-Trump site, PutinTrump.org, is about to launch. The PAC is a recycled pro-Iraq war PAC. We have guessed the password. It is Putin Trump. See about for who is behind it. Any comments? Several hours later, Trump Jr. emailed a variety of senior campaign staff. Guys, I got a weird Twitter DM from WikiLeaks. See below. I tried the password and it works. That's against the law, bro. And the about section they are referencing contains the next pick in terms of who is behind it. Not sure if this is anything, but it seems like it's really WikiLeaks asking me if I follow them, and it's a DM. Do you know the people mentioned and what the conspiracy they are looking for could be? These are just screenshots, but it's a fully built out page claiming to be a PAC. Let me know your thoughts and if we want to look into it. So it could just be a way to see if he would actually do something. Also, if Donald Trump Jr. was just on his laptop surfing the internet from a coffee shop or his home and went over and logged into a website, that website could have dropped anything on him. It could have deposited code on Donald Trump Jr.'s laptop and allowed them to get whatever they wanted from his laptop. They could have tagged his IP address, all kinds of stuff. If he went from his, I hope these people are smarter than this, like being on a campaign, a national presidential campaign. I heard that John Podesta's password was password with an @ symbol. We're talking about the world, nuclear weapons and stuff. Like, that's what you win. If you win this race for presidency, you get a suitcase that has a nuclear button in it, and you can drop nukes on people. It seems like it's more important than this. You know, these people are stupid. And Donald Trump Jr. is not really saved from that. You went and I just hope that he used a different computer, or he used like a Tails boot disk or something. Whatever. So they did it. So they were talking to him and going back and forth. WikiLeaks wrote again that it was great to see you and your dad talking about our publications. Strongly suggest your dad, Donald Trump, tweets this link if he mentions us. WLSearch.tk. It's probably a WikiLeaks search. This link would help Trump in digging through leaked emails and stated, we just released Podesta Emails Part 4. 2 days later, Trump Jr. publicly tweeted the WikiLeaks search link. There you have it. So Donald Trump Jr. knew that he was in contact with WikiLeaks, and he published their work. Which I would have done too. I mean, why would I not have done that? It doesn't make any sense. So earlier I talked about this guy, actually in the other video, this Henry Greenberg. He's tied in now to Roger Stone and Alexei Rasin, a Ukrainian associate involved in Florida real estate. Rasin offered to sell Stone derogatory information on Clinton that Rasin claimed to have obtained while working for Clinton. He claimed to possess financial statements demonstrating Clinton's involvement in money laundering with Rasin's companies. According to this guy, Roger Stone asked if the amounts in question totaled millions of dollars, but was told it was closer to hundreds of thousands. Stone refused the offer, stating that Trump would not pay for opposition research. Good for him. Campaign efforts to efforts to obtain deleted Clinton emails. I need to take a break, I think, because I don't really care about some of this stuff. I think I've kind of covered a lot of the bigger stuff. The mainstream media is going to dig through this Trump Tower Moscow project. Everybody's talking about that. Bringing up Michael Cohen, Crocus Group, Miss Universe pageant, Moscow. This is where the ridiculous P dossier comes in. The guy that wrote that didn't want to be interviewed for this Mueller investigation, by the way. Michael Cohen. I think Michael Cohen's a slime. I'm not sure. He's Trump's right-hand man for so long. All right, let's check in with comments, but first vote. Remember, we give them power. Once we know they lose it, that's all you got to know. Cool. All right, sorry about that. All right, let's go over some more of this document. I think if you stuck around, I think at one point we had like 160 people, and it looks like we dropped a few, but I think, yeah, honk, honk, honk. How much fun is the Clown World Peppy meme? Like it's honestly, it's made me feel better about life because it's like this new tool that I've been able to use. Because I don't like someone. Just like yesterday, someone was telling me about something that was just horrible. It was like transgenderism for kindergartners or something. I can't remember what it was, but like it was just so ridiculous to me that I just started laughing. Like it was the only way, and actually I got value out of it because I was like, someone else's misfortune is actually really funny, and that poor kid, man, you know. Could you imagine if you turn like 30 and you're like, why would you let me make a choice about removing my penis when I was 4 years old? Like, what kind of parent are you? What's wrong with you? Why would you do that? All right, so I'm still kind of finishing up my LaCroix here. We will get back into it, I promise. We're kind of doing this. See you, Ringo. I appreciate it. Honk, honk. I guess we'll go back into this. I'm interested to see, what people are going to do with this when it's fully digested. Because right now, people are in these newsrooms reading the whole thing right now. There might be one or two among us just seeing what we come up with. It looks like everything that the mainstream media has said in the last year is correct. Everything they said, Russian hacking, Russian bots, WikiLeaks, Russian hack, all true. Everything they said is true. But was there collusion? Did Trump go to the Russians and say, hey, I need you to hack the DNC? No, that didn't happen. And being tricked because you're interested in information that's damaging about your opponent, that's not illegal. I mean, look at the guy from the blackface governor with the Klan stuff, who was pushing like post-birth, like after-birth abortions. What is his name? The governor of like Virginia or something. He's actually like a pediatrician of all things. If you didn't go and look at that guy's yearbook, you're stupid. You're trying not to win. So if there's some information floating around on the internet that's damaging about Hillary Clinton and a foreign government released it, put it on the internet, what are you going to do? You're going to not go look at it? Of course you're going to go look at it. It's exactly what I would be doing. I think the reason why they're so pissed off is because they had a silver bullet. They had the October surprise waiting, and the October surprise was a message that Donald Trump does not value women because he made some disparaging remarks about being an alpha male. There were some women in the world that loved it. There were some men in the world that hated it. But at the exact same time we got that, we got Pizzagate. Now, I'll go back into the document. I know we want to read more. But what I want to think about, and I want to keep this fresh in your mind, is Pizzagate. All started with John Podesta's map code, the handkerchief stuff, the pedophile symbolism, and those emails. That's where it came from, Pizzagate. Donald Trump said the word Pizzagate on a CNN interview in like 2014. And the word Pizzagate was not coined until 2016. You can go look that one up. So, I mean, I don't know if Donald Trump has a time machine and he got his timeline messed up and he thought he was in 2016. He was saying Pizzagate. Really, it was 2014. Well, who knows? I just never heard the word Pizzagate before the John Podesta emails, and Donald Trump knew about it on an interview in 2014. I mean, unless it's one of those deep fakes, but it looks pretty legit to me. So with that, we'll carry on into the document. This is the Mueller report. It was released several hours ago. We've covered Russia hacking. We've covered how Russia hacked the DNC. Excuse me. This report does admit that. So the Russia hacked the DNC. They made two different accounts, DC Leaks and Guccifer 2.0. Then they used those two accounts to interact with WikiLeaks and give them that information. And then WikiLeaks used that information to pass that to Trump. But sometimes these people didn't know who they were, who each other was, looks like. Seth Rich fits in here somewhere, but not where we thought he did. Because the Russians are the ones who got Podesta's emails. Between the time that Podesta got hacked, Podesta figured out who hacked him, and then the Russians released the documents to the WikiLeaks Foundation. Between that time, somewhere in June, Seth Rich got killed. We don't know why still. So this stuff talks about telephone calls with Trump over the Moscow project, people talking to Cohen. That was Trump's lawyer that flipped on him. Cohen was the one who was the bag man paying off Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels just happens to have a Nexium tattoo, or a Nexium brand. So Cohen talking about the development. I'm not really sure if I'm interested in this. Maybe you are. You can come read about it. This is on page 83. But it's part of a grand jury investigation. Talking about a trip to Cleveland. Sater sent Cohen a notice that he was completing the badges for the forum, adding, Putin is in the 17th, is there on the 17th, very strong chance you will see him, meet him as well. So these are like the direct connections between Trump and Moscow. Starts talking about Papadopoulos centering on him. Papadopoulos became a foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign. Papadopoulos obtained a paying position on the campaign of presidential candidate Ben Carson. Excuse me. He left. He was working with another company in London. And after he started working in London, Papadopoulos contacted Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski via LinkedIn and emailed campaign official Michael Glassner about his interest in joining the Trump campaign. On March 2nd, 2016, Papadopoulos sent Glassner another message reiterating his interest. Glassner passed along word of Papadopoulos' interest to another official named Joy Ludis, who notified Papadopoulos by email that she had been told by Glassner to introduce him to Sam Clovis, the Trump campaign's national co-chair and policy advisor chief. Excuse me. I'm drinking LaCroix Pamplemousse, a can of LaCroix Pamplemousse, flavored grapefruit. I really, really like this LaCroix stuff, man. Like, I think you can get it at Costco. I just started it, I am way off right now. Give me a second to center myself. I got a Costco membership recently, and I really like Costco, man. They have amazing deals, and they got some organic stuff. I really just eat organic, but they had good deals on it, so I like it. But I started drinking this LaCroix. It's LACROIX drink. They're the ones that people said they were putting rat poisoning in their stuff, and it turns out that was like a hit piece because they're not distributed by Coca-Cola or InBev or Pepsi. They're like this little independent place that just got really popular because they had a good product. And that's why you're seeing like Michael Bublé for the bubbly drink, stuff like that. LaCroix built a market for themselves, and then Pepsi and Coke wanted a part of it. So they smeared them with that rat poisoning thing. It's not true. So I support them. I hope you do too. So it says Papadopoulos contacted Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski. That's where we were. So Corey Lewandowski, I used to like him. I think he's pretty based, you know. At the time of Papadopoulos' March 2nd email, the media was criticizing the Trump campaign for lack of experienced foreign policy or national security advisors within its ranks. To address that issue, senior campaign officials asked Clovis to put a foreign policy team together on short notice. After receiving Papadopoulos' name from Lutz, Clovis performed a Google search on Papadopoulos, the P-Man, learned that he had worked at the Hudson Institute and believed that he had credibility on energy issues. On March 3rd, 2016, Clovis arranged to speak with the P-Man by phone to discuss the P-Man joining the campaign as a foreign policy advisor. All right, so that's how he got involved. So what happened with Papadopoulos? All right, so what happened with Papadopoulos is this. In 2016, at the beginning of 2016 in February, George Papadopoulos was working for Ben Carson. Ben Carson was paying him to work on his campaign. But like in February, he left the campaign for some reason. He just left. Ben Carson was still in the race at this point, but he was probably going to drop out. It was certain at that point he couldn't win. Also, I think people understood early that Trump was the guy to beat. You know, I'm kind of getting that. I know Jeb was the pick, you know, but Jeb didn't stand a chance. There's no way. How are you going to get a third Bush in? Like, we hate them. Everybody hates the Bushes. So, all right, so Papadopoulos is working on Ben Carson's presidential campaign. And Ben Carson was kind of like tossed around. I think Ben Carson works for Trump now. So he was like an insider kind of guy. And even though Ben Carson is still in the race, Papadopoulos leaves. Okay. Then, oh my God, this is how they planted him. All right, so he leaves. Then he goes and reached out to a contact at the London Center of International Law. He says, hey, I'm done working with Ben Carson. So they're like, all right, come on over here and work. We're in London. So then George Papadopoulos goes to London and starts working. This all happens in February. So George Papadopoulos leaves Ben Carson's campaign and goes to work in London. And exactly at that time, at the exact moment that he's going to work in London, he also contacts Corey Lewandowski. And he emailed this other guy named Michael Glassner saying he was interested in joining the Trump campaign. So he's jumping ship. He jumps ship on Ben Carson, goes to work in London, and reaches out to multiple people in the Trump campaign and tries to get on board. And then a couple weeks later in March, he follows up and says, hey, I'm really interested. So then the second guy, so not Corey Lewandowski, but the second guy, this Glassner guy, Michael Glassner, he tells Joy Lutz, who then gets in touch with Papadopoulos. So that's where the Joy Lutz check comes from. And then she introduces Papadopoulos to Sam Clovis, the Trump campaign's national co-chair and chief policy advisor. And this happens at the exact same time the media was criticizing the Trump campaign for not having very good foreign policy advisors. Like the exact day, like the exact same time. So they get Papadopoulos' name from Lutz, who was passed from Michael Glassner. And they figure out, well, this guy's got some credibility, so they bring him on. Papadopoulos recalled that Russia was mentioned as a topic, and he understood from the conversation that Russia would be an important aspect of the campaign's foreign policy. At the end of the conversation, Clovis offered Papadopoulos a role as a foreign policy advisor to the campaign, and Papadopoulos accepted. So this is how Papadopoulos got into the Trump campaign. LinkedIn. LinkedIn, and he sent an email. Okay, so notice this. Corey Lewandowski did not recommend him. Michael Glassner did. This guy. Michael Glassner to Joy Lutz to Sam Clovis. That was the entry to the top. So a week after signing on, Papadopoulos leaves London and goes to Rome as part of his duties with the London company he's working for, right? The purpose of this trip was to meet officials affiliated with a Link Campus University, a for-profit institution headed by a former Italian government official. During the visit, Papadopoulos was introduced to Joseph Mifsud. Mifsud is a Maltese national who worked as a professor at the London Academy of Diplomacy in London, England. Although this Mifsud guy worked out of London and was also affiliated with the same company Papadopoulos works for, the encounter in Rome was the first time they had met. So they both worked for the same company. Papadopoulos meets this Mifsud guy. And he maintained various Russian contacts while living in London. Among his contacts was a Redacted guy, an employee of that Russian secret intelligence service, the company that they set up, the IRA. So the entity that carried out the Russian social media campaign has a guy who knows this Mifsud guy who works at the same company Papadopoulos works for. I think somebody somewhere knew this. How would you not? Papadopoulos just went to work at a foreign company outside of the United States in London at the exact same month he jumped ship from Ben Carson and goes to work for the Trump campaign. And that company has a guy who has Russian contacts who are running the social media campaign in the United States. Phenomenal. I mean, you could write reports about this. I mean, if there's a journalist anywhere, you'd write tons of reports about this. No one knows this. Okay, so this Mifsud guy that George Papadopoulos, his coworker, George P's coworker, knows these guys doing the Russian troll campaign in the United States. In January and February of 2016, before George Papadopoulos went to work for that company with this guy, Mifsud and this somebody else discussed something, possibly somebody else meeting in Russia. The investigation did not identify evidence of them meeting, though. Later in spring of 2016, that somebody was also in contact another somebody that was linked to an employee of the Russian Ministry of Defense, and that account had overlapping contacts with a group of Russian military-controlled Facebook accounts that included accounts used to promote the DC leaks releases in the course of the GRU hack and release operation. So basically, the company, the place in London that George Papadopoulos went to work for. Okay, he went to work for. They have an employee that has extensive ties to the Russian military, the Russian government, the Russian Secret Service, the intelligence services in Russia. He knows everybody, okay? And Papadopoulos went to Italy to meet with him. They didn't know each other until he went to Italy. And he only went to Italy after he started working in the Trump campaign. Okay, so according to George Papadopoulos, this Mifsud guy with all the Russian contacts at first seemed uninterested in George Papadopoulos when they met in Rome. But after Papadopoulos informed Mifsud about his role in the Trump campaign, Mifsud appeared to take greater interest in Papadopoulos. Of course, man. How would you not? The two discussed Mifsud's European and Russian contacts, had a general discussion about Russia. Mifsud also offered to introduce Papadopoulos to European leaders and others with contacts to the Russian government. Papadopoulos told the office that Mifsud's claim of substantial connections with Russian government officials interested Papadopoulos, who thought that such connections could increase his importance as a policy advisor to the Russian campaign. Sorry, to do the Trump campaign. He's a plant, man. And that's what it looks like to me. He wasn't a part of the Trump campaign early. He only jumped ship after it looked like Ben Carson was getting ready to throw in the towel. He went straight to work for a company that doesn't operate in the United States. And he went on a business trip after getting into the Trump campaign to go meet with a guy who has extensive contacts with the Russian troll army and the Russian government. He was either handpicked. Either the Trump administration or the Trump campaign knew exactly who this guy was, knew what he could do, knew where they could put him, or Papadopoulos is a CIA guy. It's like the only explanation, because it's not easy to get into these places, you know? And he had just enough credibility to get in, but not any real credibility. Like, I don't really know if George Papadopoulos is like, I don't know anything about him. I'd be misjudging him, but. Excuse me. So this is immediate. When did he go to Russia? When did he meet Mifsud? It's like directly after that, right? At the end of this conversation. So he comes on as part of the Trump administration. Quick, too. Like within a day. Within a day of talking to this Glassner guy. Within a day of talking to this Glassner guy, he's on the phone. And 3 days later, he's offered a role in the Trump campaign. When is it? It doesn't say, does it? To Rome. Where's the start of this? I don't see it. approximately a week after signing on as a foreign policy advisor, he went to go meet the Russian guy with all the contacts, or the guy with all the Russian contacts. So literally, this happens within like a week, 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, within a month, he leaves Ben Carson's campaign, takes a job in London. Within like a day or two of contacting the Trump administration the second time, he gets involved. He looks like a plant. He looks like a CIA guy. That's what it looks like to me. Okay, so we'll skip down here. Okay, so he meets with this guy in Russia, or this. He meets with the Maltese guy who's Eastern European, and who knows all the Russian people and the secret intelligence stuff. He meets with that guy. Then he goes back to London. 4 days later, candidate Trump publicly named him as a member of the Foreign Policy and National Security Advisory Team, chaired by Senator Jeff Sessions, describing Papadopoulos as a, quote, an oil and energy consultant and an excellent guy. A week later, on March 24th, Papadopoulos met with the guy with all the Russian contacts, Mifsud, in London. Mifsud was accompanied by a female Russian named Olga Polanskaya. Mifsud introduced Polanskaya as a former student of his who had connections to Vladimir Putin. Papadopoulos understood at the time that Polanskaya may have been Putin's niece, but later learned that was not true. During the meeting, Polanskaya offered to help Papadopoulos establish contacts in Russia and stated that the Russian ambassador in London was a friend of hers. Based on this interaction, Papadopoulos expected Mifsud and Polanskaya to introduce him to the Russian ambassador in London, but that did not occur. Following his meeting with Mifsud, Papadopoulos sent an email to members of the Trump campaign's foreign policy advisory team. Subject line of the message was, meeting with Russian leadership, including Putin. The message stated in pertinent part, I just finished a very productive lunch with a very good friend of mine, Joseph Mifsud, the director of the London Academy of Diplomacy, who introduced me to both Putin's niece and the Russian ambassador in London, who also acts as the deputy foreign minister. Papadopoulos is a liar. She was not Putin's niece, and he did not meet the Russian ambassador in London. But he wrote this to the Trump campaign policy team. The topic of the lunch was to arrange a meeting between us and the Russian leadership to discuss U.S.-Russia ties under President Trump. They are keen to host us in a, quote, neutral city or directly in Moscow. They said the leadership, including Putin, is ready to meet with us, and Mr. Trump should be there. And Mr. Trump, should there be interest, waiting for everyone's thoughts on moving forward with this very important issue. He's a liar. Papadopoulos understood at the time that Polanskaya may have been Putin's niece, but later learned this was not true. So she was not Putin's niece. He said that he thought that she might have been. And, I mean, wouldn't you know that? Like, isn't that something that it'd be easy to ask somebody? He's the foreign policy guy, right? He didn't have any contacts that can verify this. You wouldn't want to verify that before you met with this person? During the meeting, Polanskaya offered to help him establish contacts in Russia and stated that the Russian ambassador in London was a friend of hers, and Papadopoulos expected an introduction, but that didn't occur. But he came down here and said that he was introduced to both Putin's niece and the Russian ambassador, and that didn't happen. Papadopoulos is a liar. He lied about both of them. He met his buddy's friend, this Mifsud guy. This Mifsud guy said, hey, this is a former student of mine, right? And then Papadopoulos is like, oh, okay, you must be Vladimir Putin's niece, and now I'm going to meet the Russian ambassador. And then he goes and tells Trump that he met Putin's niece and the Russian ambassador. All he did was meet his buddy's friend. It's amazing. Papadopoulos' message came at a time when Clovis perceived a shift in the campaign's approach towards Russia. From one of engaging with Russia through the NATO framework and taking a strong stance on Russia aggression in Ukraine, to one of blah, 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 something redacted. Grand jury redacted. Clovis's response to Papadopoulos, however, did not reflect that shift. Replying to Papadopoulos and the other members of the Foreign Policy Advisory Team, copied on the initial email, Clovis wrote, "This is the most informative. Let me work through it with the campaign, note commitments until we see how this plays out. My thought is that we probably should not go forward with any meetings with the Russians until we have had occasion to sit with our NATO allies, especially France, Germany, and Great Britain. We need to reassure our allies that we are not going to advance anything with Russia until we have everyone on the same page. More thoughts today. Great work." So my analysis would Trump is saying, hey, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to be this way with Russia. We're about to win the election here. So we're probably going to start dealing with Russia directly. And it's going to have to go around NATO because we don't really, it's going to just get in the way, So Clovis knew about a shift towards Russia, but you don't know what the shift was to. You just know what it was from one of engaging with Russia through the NATO framework and taking a strong stance on Russian aggression in Ukraine to one of something else. So then they have a foreign policy team meeting. Papadopoulos flew to Washington for the event. Sessions sat at the end of an oval table, Trump at the other. So Trump and Sessions were heads of the table, as reflected in the photograph below. And it's not there. Oh, there it is. So there's Trump, and there's Sessions, and there's Papadopoulos in the middle of it, So they had to do introductions. Papadopoulos spoke about his previous work in the energy sector and then brought up a potential meeting with Russian officials. Specifically, Papadopoulos told the group in that photo that he had learned through his contacts in London that Putin wanted to meet with candidate Trump and that these connections would help arrange the meeting. Trump and Sessions both reacted to Papadopoulos' statement. Papadopoulos and campaign advisor J.D. Gordon, who told investigators in an interview that he had a, quote, crystal clear recollection of the meeting, have stated that Trump was interested in and receptive to the idea of meeting with Putin. Papadopoulos understood Sessions to be similarly supportive of his efforts to arrange a meeting. Gordon and two other attendees, however, recall that Sessions generally opposed the proposal, although they differ in their accounts of the concerns he voiced or the strength of the opposition he expressed. So Papadopoulos and J.D. Gordon say Trump and Sessions said, yeah, we want to meet with Putin. But two other people, they kind of say something different. They say that wasn't really the case, but they don't say the exact same thing. So whatever Sessions' precise words were, Papadopoulos did not understand Sessions or anyone else in the Trump campaign to have directed that he refrain from making further efforts to arrange a meeting between the campaign and the Russian government. To the contrary, Papadopoulos told the office he understood the campaign to be supportive of his efforts to arrange such a meeting. Accordingly, when he returned to London, Papadopoulos resumed those efforts. This is eye-opening. Like, there's a lot here. I need to read this in detail, I think, because Getting the timeline of this is, I mean, they have emails with timestamps. Like they really, whoever wrote this figured it out. You know, I imagine most of it's in here. Trump never directed Papadopoulos to take action on this or to meet with Putin, and neither did Jeff Sessions. And both of them reacted when he said it. And for me, I'm thinking maybe they both knew this guy was a plant, and they were just waiting for him to say something. And then, bam, he just said it, you know. And then they kind of looked at each other like, "Hey, what the, you know, like, hey, are you hear what he just said?" You know, it's looking that way to me. I mean, I haven't made it all the way through. There's a lot here. I think I'm gonna have to take a break. I'll try to push through a little bit more, but another 10 or 15 minutes, I'm off. Okay, so check this stuff out. This guy named Clovis, I think he's the in. I've mentioned him a couple times, right? I skipped over this. Mifsud traveled to Moscow in April. Papadopoulos talks to him during that time. They chit chat. He thinks he's being monitored. Mifsud says he meets with officials in the government of the Russians. All right, here we go. So on May 6th, 2016, 10 days after the meeting with Mifsud, Papadopoulos suggested to a representative of a foreign government that the Trump campaign had received indications from the Russian government that it could assist the campaign through the anonymous release of information that would be damaging to Hillary Clinton. And this is what happened with all that stuff we talked about earlier. It all came through Papadopoulos. All the connections with the Russians were all through Papadopoulos. He was brought on by this Clovis guy. While he was discussing his foreign contacts at a potential meeting of campaign officials with Russian government officials, Papadopoulos kept campaign officials apprised of his efforts. On April 25th, same day before Mifsud, on the day before Mifsud told Papadopoulos about the emails, Papadopoulos wrote to his senior policy advisor, Stephen Mueller, that the Russian government has an open invitation by Putin for Trump to meet with him when he is ready, and that the advantage of being in London is that these governments tend to speak a bit more openly in neutral cities. On April 27th, 2 days later, after meeting with Mifsud, Papadopoulos wrote a second message to Mueller stating that some interesting messages were coming in from Moscow about a trip when the time is right. The same day, Papadopoulos sent a similar email to campaign manager Corey Lewandowski, telling Lewandowski that Papadopoulos had, quote, been receiving a lot of calls over the last month about Putin wanting to host Trump and the team when the time is right. This is insane. Like, Papadopoulos did the whole thing, all of it. Papadopoulos' Russia-related communications with campaign officials continued throughout the spring and summer of 2016. On May 4th, 2016, he forwarded to Lewandowski an email from Timofeev raising the possibility of a meeting in Moscow, asking Lewandowski whether that was something we wanted to move forward with. The next day, P-Man forwarded the same email to Sam Clovis, adding to the top of the email, Russia update. He included the same email message to senior campaign official Paul Manafort under the subject line, request from Russia to meet Mr. Trump, stating that Russia has been eager to meet Mr. Trump for quite some time and have been reaching out to me to discuss. Manafort forwarded the message to another campaign official without including Papadopoulos and stated, let's discuss. We need someone to communicate that Trump is not doing these trips. It should be someone low level in the campaign so as not to send any signal. So Papadopoulos is really pushing for these direct connections between the Russians through this contact he had at this company he went to go work for right before he joined the company or the campaign. And it looks like he's just not getting any traction. He's trying really hard to get people interested. They don't want to do it. After Lewandowski told Papadopoulos to connect with Clovis because he was running around, Papadopoulos emailed Clovis that the Russian MFA was asking him if Mr. Trump is interested in visiting Russia. Wanted to pass this info along and decide what's best. Papadopoulos sent one more email to Lewandowski on Lewandowski's last day as campaign manager, June 19th. Email stated that the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs had contacted him and asked him whether if Mr. Trump could not travel to Russia, a campaign representative such as Papadopoulos could attend the meetings. Papadopoulos told Lewandowski that he was willing to make the trip off the record if it's in the interest of Mr. Trump and the campaign to meet specific people. Lewandowski got kicked out of the campaign. Papadopoulos then communicated with Sam Clovis again and Walid Faris, another member of the Foreign Policy Advisory Team, about an off-the-record meeting between the campaign and Russian government. Papadopoulos also communicated directly with Clovis and Faris in connection with the summit of the Transatlantic Parliamentary Group on Counterterrorism, TAG, a group for which Faris was co-secretary general. On July 16th, he attended the summit where he sat next to Clovis. Clovis claimed to have no recollection of attending the TAG summit. Papadopoulos remembered discussing Russia and a foreign policy trip with Clovis and Faris during the event. Papadopoulos' recollection is consistent with emails sent before and after the TAG summit. The pre-summit messages include a July 11th, 2016 email in which Faris suggested meeting Papadopoulos the day after the summit to chat, and a July 12th message in the same chain where Faris advised Papadopoulos that other summit attendees were very nervous about Russia, so be aware. 10 days after the summit, Papadopoulos sent an email to Mifsud listing Faris and Clovis as other participants in a potential meeting at a London Academy of Diplomacy. Finally, Papadopoulos' recollection is also consistent with handwritten notes from a journal he kept at that time. These notes, which are reprinted in part, appear to refer to the potential September 2016 meetings in London with representatives of the Office of Putin, and suggest that Faris, Clovis, and Papadopoulos, Walid, Sam, and me would attend without the official backing of the campaign. So the three of them are going to have a secret meeting, and it's going to be without anybody's knowledge. Israel and Egypt. Off Israel? Egypt? What does this mean? Explore. We are a campaign. Off Israel and Egypt. So they were going to talk about these two things, Israel and Egypt. And he boxed him in. Drew boxes around him. He also boxed in no official letter. Clovis decided that he couldn't go. All right. Oh, man, here comes Carter Page. All right, now Carter Page looks like he knows what he's talking about. I'm done with this. I mean, it's going to take me forever to get through this. I don't want to waste your time. All the stuff I wanted to read about, I read, but now I'm more interested in this stuff because this is where it all started. This Carter Page stuff, I don't understand it as well as I should, and this probably just lays it all out. And this is direct connection to Moscow. And Page connects to Clovis here. And remember, Clovis said I wasn't at that thing, and he was. So I think a long time ago I said, the only thing that Reagan did wrong was he elected Bush to be his vice president. And that's why he caught 2 bullets to the stomach and then never did anything different. You know what I mean? So they were probably ready for this time. They looked to see who was going to take control of the campaign, who was going to be the mole, and they had a plan. Or they just tried to keep their noses clean and make sure that whatever dirt was being pulled up didn't get grabbed. Gosh dang it, I wanted to get off here. And here's Jared Kushner. I hate Jared Kushner. I don't hate too many people. I hate Jared Kushner. I like Alex Jones more than I like Jared Kushner. And Ivanka Trump, they got to go. They have to go. Jared Kushner's in here with a memo. Bring up Stephen Mueller, Paul Manafort, Rick Gates on this note. Kushner's the guy, man. Like, he's the guy. If he doesn't like you, you leave. Sheldon Adelson is the guy that spends all the money, and if Sheldon Adelson wants to move the embassy to Jerusalem and he wants it to happen faster, the timetable gets sped up. We move it faster. Here's the Trump Tower meeting that the mainstream media is really going to latch onto. I'm going to get off that because I'm not sure. I mean, there's just so much here. It's going to take weeks, Each little chapter is a story. I just saw Mike Flynn's name. This is what this last section I'm on right now, this talks about, I think, what they're going to want. All right, so this is about the report. It says, in sum, contrary to the position taken by the President's counsel, we concluded that, in light of the Supreme Court precedent governing separation of powers issues, we had a valid basis for investigating the conduct at issue in the report. In our view, the application of the obstruction statutes would not impermissibly burden the President's performance of his Article II function to supervise prosecutorial conduct or to remove inferior law enforcement officers, and the protection of the criminal justice system from corrupt acts by any person, including the President, accords with the fundamental principle of our government that no person in this country is so high that he is above the law. Conclusion. Because we determined not to make a traditional prosecutorial judgment, we did not draw ultimate conclusions about the President's conduct. The evidence we obtained about the President's actions and intent presents difficult issues that would need to be resolved if we were to make a traditional prosecutorial judgment. At the same time, if we had confidence after a thorough investigation of the facts that the President clearly did not commit obstruction of justice, we would so state. Based on the facts and applicable legal standards, we are unable to reach that judgment. Accordingly, while this report does not conclude that President committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. That's the last stuff on it. That's insane that's the ending of it, William Barr of the CIA, past Attorney General, he's the guy saying that, it's like slamming a door, wham, and then just creaking open. Like you're just this does not solve anything. It doesn't solve anything. There's a lot here, and they're saying that this was not a criminal proceeding, so we're not going to make a prosecutorial judgment. And they're saying that the evidence they found doesn't rule out collusion. It looks like they were trying to delay it. I mean, maybe not. Like, there's more here, maybe? I don't. There's juicy stuff in here I missed, but like the big stuff, I got the big picture. Russia hacked the DNC. Russia gave the data to WikiLeaks. Somehow, the Trump campaign used it to help himself win. There's Faith Hicks. Remember how she got kicked out? Hicks recalled the president asked her what the meeting had been about, and she said that she had been told the meeting was about Russia adoption. The president responded, "Then just say that." All right. Well, I'm interested to see what the media is going to do with this, because whoever wants to take Trump down, this is their moment. This is all they're going to get. They're going to have to get public backlash on this as fast as possible. There's a lot of ongoing stuff, though. So, like, these investigations are still happening. You know? This is redacted right now. These are, like, considerations, too. Like, false statements and obstructions of justice. There's redactions in these parts. Here's a grand jury. And the grand jury is under some protected person we don't know about. Okay, let's look here. False statements and obstruction of justice. Willfulness. During the interview, okay, here's things that happen. Are these the judgments they want to take? Sorry. I didn't go up that far. I think this is the judgment section, like what their findings were. Members of that company I was telling you about, the Russian trolls that hacked everybody, had contact with individuals affiliated with the Trump campaign. The indictment does not charge any Trump campaign official or any other U.S. person in participating in the conspiracy. It looks like Trump's clean, and it looks like they knew this stuff was happening, and it looks like George Papadopoulos was a mole, and that's what it looks like. But I don't know. You know, it's going to take a while to get. Okay, yeah. So this is the prosecution and the declination process, the decisions. So here's a federal grand jury and conspiracy about the Russians. So they've been indicted. That's happening. Ongoing matter. That's what all this is. Then there's a potential Section 1030 violation. I talked about that kind of earlier. Get rid of that. Russian government outreach to contacts. FARA charges against Paul Manafort and Rick Gates, based on their activities on behalf of Ukraine, not Russia. Ukraine is where Joe Biden's son made the $1 billion or whatever on the gas. Potential coordination, conspiracy, and collusion. I don't see anything there we're talking about. Talks about what it needs. There's FARA statutes governing law. Personal privacy, PP. Okay. Talk about Carter Page, Paul Manafort, and George Papadopoulos acted as agents of the Russian government. The investigation did not, however, yield evidence sufficient to sustain any charge that anybody with the Trump campaign violated the FARA Act, campaign finance. Several areas of the office's investigation involved efforts or offers by foreign nationals to provide negative information about candidate Clinton. As explained below, the office considered whether two of these efforts in particular, meeting at Trump Tower, constituted prosecutorial violations of the campaign laws. Our office determined that the evidence was not sufficient to charge either incident as a criminal violation. So they didn't violate campaign finance at the Trump Tower thing. Application to this stuff, which is all redacted. Whole bunch of redacted stuff on that. Application to certain individuals. Okay. All right. So this is, I just want to point this out. Papadopoulos is a liar. Investigators approached Papadopoulos for an interview based on his role as a foreign policy advisor to the Trump campaign, FARA Act stuff, and the suggestion to a foreign government representative that Russia had indicated it could assist the campaign through the anonymous release of information damaging to candidate Clinton. Papadopoulos agreed to be interviewed. During the interview, Papadopoulos lied about the timing, extent, and nature of his communications with Joseph Mifsud, Olga Polanskaya, and Ivan Timofeev. With respect to timing, Papadopoulos acknowledged that he had met Mifsud and that Mifsud told him the Russians had dirt on Clinton in the form of thousands of emails. But Papadopoulos stated multiple times that those communications occurred before he joined the Trump campaign and that it was a very strange coincidence to be told of the dirt before he started working for the campaign. This account was false. He lied a bunch, lied some more. Falsely claimed that he met the woman before he joined the campaign. This is going to get ugly. All right, so Papadopoulos is the first guy. The second guy that's up on the grand jury Okay, so Papadopoulos already served prison, 14 days for lying. That's what he did. He didn't really violate any agreements. He just lied. So far. This guy, we don't even know who this is. So these are the people that they want to charge. We don't even know who he is or anything about it. And there's one block in there because it's part of a grand jury investigation. Next one is Mike Flynn. Flynn made 2 false statements about his conversations with Russian Ambassador Kislyak at a time when the U.S. had imposed sanctions on Russia for interfering in the 26th election. This is where he said, hang out for a little bit. Don't freak out. Second, Flynn made false statements about calls he had made previously to representatives of Russia. So Flynn lied. Flynn pleaded guilty to that charge and also admitted his false statements to the department in his FARA filing. Hasn't been sentenced yet. Michael Cohen. We kind of know about Michael Cohen. Move past that. And then harm to an ongoing matter. So there's somebody else in here that they want to charge. Or it could be Paul Manafort or Rick Gates, the guy that's already done some stuff. Oh my gosh, and then Jeff Sessions. Hang on. So there's all this. I want to know who this is. There's a lot here about this person. A lot. This one right here, 6. Jeff Sessions, as set forth in Volume 1, Section 4, A.6 Supra, the investigation established that while a U.S. Senator and Trump campaign advisor, former Attorney General Jeff Sessions interacted with Russian Ambassador Kislyak during the week of the Republican National Convention. So what? The office considered whether, in light of these interactions, Sessions committed perjury before or made false statements to Congress with his confirmation as Attorney General. Although the investigation established that Sessions interacted with Kislyak, Sessions didn't do anything wrong. Insufficient to prove Sessions was willfully untruthful. Just says what he did. And then here's a bunch of other people that have been talked about. These are people that lied, committed perjury. So that was it. Is this volume 2? This is volume 2. So I kind of wasted part of that. I didn't realize there was a volume 2 in here. Volume 1 was up there. I would have to do a whole new thing for this. This is the better part. So volume 2 is the better place to be. President's efforts to curtail special counsel. They talk about it all, man. There's going to be books written about this. Let's go read the conclusion page, and then I'm going to get off because this is my voice is kind of going. 182. Okay, so this is the end of the second one. Because we determined not to make traditional prosecutorial judgment, we did not draw ultimate conclusions about the president's conduct. This report does not exonerate the president. So maybe it was the same stuff. All right. I'm going to answer a couple questions if you guys want to chat, and then I'm going to hop off. Thank you, Radical Bees. Yeah, Jarek, we waited so long for this, I know. Yellow smoke was from a lead roof. Please let us know when you'll be going to be on again. It's kind of tough for me. I don't have help with this yet. I would need some help, and I would like to be on a schedule. It's been hard for me to get up early in the morning and get on. I would like to do this every morning at 7 for like an hour just to chit chat. But since the 90 people watching right now are probably hardcore Smithers, Bill Smith fans, I'll be the first one to tell you guys, or I'll tell you guys first, that I don't know if I'm going to do this much longer. Like reading about all this stuff and knowing about things that really aren't real to me, it gets difficult, it has an impact on my psyche. And by real, I mean, I know they're real, but when I go outside, I'm not exposed to any of this. You know, like I have a good life. I'm around good people. I've never seen anybody really commit a crime, never seen anybody get hurt. I've had a good life, and that's kind of why I did this, was because I was reading about all this stuff, and it's not fair for other people to go through it and not have any support. So I want to, like going forward, I've talked about this before, but I need some sort of like, not platform, but I need like structure. So I need people to help, and I don't know how to get people involved. I don't know what the easiest way is, but some things I need help with is I need someone to help me manage a Twitter feed so I can stay active on Twitter, or manage a feed on my behalf. I would like someone to manage like a social media account on each platform, like on my behalf, and then come to like a meeting once a week, and we could talk about what we want to do that week. I'd like to plan things out instead of reacting to news. And then the other thing I wanted to do was I want to create a channel by collecting a lot of other people's live streams, videos I like, and put it onto something that's like on an app. And I can make all that happen. I can make the app, I can make a website, but the daily upkeep of posting, making sure content's good, reading things, just being a part of it is stuff I need help with, and I don't really know how to ask or get people involved. So maybe in the future we could have like a Discord chat. Yep, thank you for the Discord suggestion, Ron. So I was thinking like maybe I can get on Discord, and there's already a room. Like I have a room called Bill Smith, and then someone else made a room called like Where is Bill Smith when I was absent. So I'd like to maybe get over there. I don't have a timeline. I don't have a way to put it on the calendar yet. I think I'm just going to go ahead and just like do it. So maybe the next time I do a live stream, and I will try to keep it from going for too long from now, but the next time I do a live stream, that's what I'll try to make it about, is how I can ask for your help and you could offer your help if you want to do something like that. And we can set up some kind of like structure so that we can support each other. So I'd really like that. Hey, Nancy, if you just recently found me, I'm glad to have you. You can go back and watch some of my videos. There's a lot of good stuff out there. The stuff on the top on my channel is kind of the good stuff. Okay, well, thanks everybody for being here. And until next time, I guess, this is Bill Smith. Thanks for watching.